Oh, hey Sly, how's it going? Wait, did I water my flowers? I did. I just gotta sell m- Oh, hi, guys. Didn't see you there. How long's it been? Oh. Today I'm looking at Kirby's Dream Land 2. After the greatness that was Kirby's Adventure, it definitely seemed like an odd decision for this game to return back to the Game Boy, and also to name it as a sequel to the original Kirby's Dream Land. So in that logic, Adventure isn't a sequel to Dreamland, but Dreamland 2 is. It's a weird discrepancy that definitely doesn't return later down the track. Rainbow bridges separating the 7 rainbow islands of Popstar have been shattered by an evil force known as Dark Matter, and has possessed King DDD. This story sets up the series for many things. One is introducing Dark Matter, who would end up appearing in 2 other games, collectively referred to as the Dark Matter Trilogy. 2. From now on, King DDD always appears as a boss as possessed and taken control over by dark forces, literally every game. He's more so the king of getting possessed than whatever he's supposed to be the king of. This game also has its new mechanics. To start off with, Kirby has a band of new friends, the Animal Buddies, Rick the Hamster, Kind the Sunfish, and Coo the Owl. In-game, Kirby can ride each one to enhance his ground, sea, and air movement respectively. This sounds basic at first, but using their return and copy abilities with the buddies creates a combination. This is a really cool feature, but it comes at a price. The actual lineup of copy abilities has been reduced to 7 instead of the 24 in Adventure. Those abilities are Stone, Cutter, Burning, which is the new name for Fireball, Parasol, Spark, Ice, and Needle. Upon hearing this, you may think it's a downgrade, but the game does try to make up for this by making some of the combinations homages to the original abilities. Spark Rick is essentially Beam, Burning Rick is a lot like Fire, Rick Ice is like Freeze, and Coo Parasol is similar to Tornado. If you take these extra combos into consideration, then the real total of returning abilities is 11, and the total is 28. Abilities also can interact with their environments, such as how fire and electric abilities quickly fizzle out in water, which is a nice touch that I really like. There is an odd imbalance of power with these abilities. Some are really hard and dumb to control, but others are really good. For example, Kind Parasol and Kind Spark essentially have the same control scheme, except Spark doubles up as a projectile, lights up rooms, and can be held indefinitely, and Parasol has none of these. When it comes to which system I like more, whether it be more abilities and no buddies, or buddies and less abilities, it's hard to say. One thing I'm not a fan of is how the buddies themselves need to be obtained, and upon dying or getting hit enough they'll go away, which means you'll lose all chances of using them and their abilities until you find another. Which kind of sucks, especially since they don't appear nearly as much as actual ability holders. I do think that the inclusion of the animal buddies serves as a good variety of the gameplay, and adds another layer to the ability of choice that I talked about last time. There is one thing that does annoy me about them, but it won't come up until later. Kirby himself has also been severely downgraded since Adventure. Now he can't slide or run. Man, now I can't make that joke again. The dance does return, however, which I forgot to mention last time. But while in Adventure, the goal game features 2 dances, a short one for 2 to 7 and a regular one for 1, this goal game has a different length and dance for every individual number, which leads to some pathetic dances. Kirby's got some newer sprites, most notable being the crouch, which looks way more stupid than before, and I really like it. The level design is worse. One thing I do appreciate is that the scenery issue of Adventure is fixed. Now the levels will have themes that suit the worlds they're in, but also don't rapidly change to random locations that don't make coherent sense. That being said, there are some really dumb level design aspects of this game that I do not like. Levels are usually designed in mind to be played with any animal buddy, which means due to the lack of flight from Rick and Kind, there are platforms in most levels to let everyone be able to proceed, which in theory is a good idea, but can sometimes make levels look cluttered and messy. Each level also has several collectible stars, which fill up this meter at the bottom and gives you an extra life after collecting 10. Okay, kinda random, sure. One thing I really hate is the auto-scrollers. Kirby with auto-scrollers is an idea way worse than it sounds, and it sounds awful. Wanna know the worst example? Dark Castle Stage 6 features a section with forks in the path. Some of these paths have dead ends, and if you pick the wrong one, you die from the auto-scroll. Now, technically this section mimics a regular scrolling version of a segment from Stage 3 of the same world, 3 levels ago. I'm sorry, wait. Shinichi Shimamura, but I don't have the memory of an elephant. I spend all day playing games. What do you expect of me? Actually, all the levels of Dark Castle do this, where levels will mirror each other. This is passed off as a gimmick, but it comes across as baseless padding. Some levels of Cloudy Court feature weird updraft sections with obstacles, and weird underwater or cloud mazes. One of the biggest level design outliers is in Red Mountain's last level. The final section features a vertical screen with blocks placed to make this. Yes, it is what it looks like. This wasn't some weird coincidence or accident. 100% intentional and a common feature of numerous dirty secret top 10 lists. The level design overall isn't awful, but there isn't much to write home about, and there are quite a few stinkers. On to the bosses. There's a similar mentality to Adventure, where there's a larger variety of ways to beat every boss. There's a new mini-boss for every remaining ability, which I won't list, but this Parasol one is like the one in TKO. Wispy is back, and by the looks of things, I think he'd prefer if I stayed 1 meter away from him. All the rest of the bosses are rather generic. There's an anglerfish, boar, an ice dragon called Ice Dragon, and the rest are returning. I couldn't tell you why they're so generic. Sure, they're neat boss fights. The anglerfish takes place entirely underwater, but I'm not a massive fan. Now we return to the routine music segment where I stumble through explaining how the game's soundtrack is memorable, catchy, and other comments that have no meaning. The only thing I'd have to say this time is that the 3 buddies have their own themes, and as long as you're using one of the buddies, it will always play. Otherwise, the soundtrack is memorable, catchy, and a series of other comments that have no meaning. After storming through the Dark Castle, Kirby confronts the possessed DDD, who once again fights as you'd expect. Once Kirby defeats DDD, the Rainbow Bridges once again form, and Kirby and his friends return to a world of unity and strength. In Kirby's Dream Land 2, no, obviously that isn't the real ending. In order to achieve the good ending, Kirby has to collect the 7 rainbow drops from each world. Essentially, some worlds have secret sections that require certain abilities to unlock the rainbow drop. While in earlier levels, it's very easy to do this, given you only have 1 buddy to choose from. Later on, it can be tricky to know which buddy and ability to use. To be fair, the blocks themselves usually are easy to figure out, but sometimes they aren't, and you have to test with a bunch of different abilities and buddies. Even when you do know the correct combination, sometimes it can be really difficult to make it to the actual room. The last 3 ones are particularly cryptic, forcing ability switches, tricky platforming, and just in general very annoying. It's less so hard as it is just tedious. Despite all that, bringing the rainbow drops to the DDD fight once again and defeating him gives Kirby the almighty rainbow sword and ascends into space to fight dark matter. The first phase is pretty tricky if you're impatient, as while you can hit him up close, you're supposed to deflect his projectiles back at him. Now dark matter's true form is revealed. A boar with 1 eye and some spikes. Sure. This phase can be difficult as well, and there's no way to cheese it and you have to hit it up close. The worst part is that dying takes you back to the beginning of the first phase and your health isn't healed between phases. I'll admit, I had to use Virtual Console Restore Points TM to beat it. After doing so, the true ending plays. Kirby falls back down to Popstar, and all his friends made along the way all look up towards the sky. Using the Rainbow Sword, Kirby reforms the Rainbow Bridges, and Kirby's Dream Land 2 comes to a close. Yeah, there isn't an extra mode this time, which is definitely weird coming off the last 2 games, but I think the game on its own was fulfilling enough. Kirby's Dream Land 2 overall is good. Not fantastic, not bad, just good. Sure, there are parts that I despise, but it has its moments, and the inclusion of the animal buddies and a true ending along with other things definitely improves the experience. Coming up the heels of Adventure, it can just look dull in comparison. Next, we're on to Kirby Superstar on the SNES, and trust me when I say it's gonna be a great time. So, how'd you guys like the first draft of this video? I wanted to give something to hold you all off.
Brown bricks. Brown bricks. Brown bricks. Brown bricks. Brown bricks. Brown bricks.
Well, I told you to shut up, but you didn't listen. What a sexy asshole.